As taboo as it is to say, one of the trickiest parts about being an Uber driver and a Lyft driver that not a lot of people talk about is going to the bathroom. If you think about it, if you're driving in a city, it's peak hours, peak time, there's a ton of traffic, a ton of people on the road, and you're in the middle of a city, finding a bathroom, finding a place just to pull over or to find a spot, finding a bathroom, going to a business or going to an establishment, it's a lot trickier than most people think. And so in this video, I'm going to talk about the 5 best spots for Uber drivers and Lyft drivers to go to the bathroom. Now, one beginning pro tip I have to give you is to have the bathroom addresses on your phone. I've talked about this in a few other videos as a great pro tip for drivers because as you, like, say, go to these different establishments and you find ones that are really good to go to the bathroom at, where you can easily park at them, go in and out, I suggest copy and pasting those addresses on your phone, on your notes app, or wherever you want to store it. In addition, another kind of pro tip on top of that is with the lock code. So let's say you want to go to a specific Starbucks and it's a really good spot to just pull in, park, run in and out. I also put the bathroom code, like 4751 or whatever it is, on my phone. That way, at a certain point, if let's say I need to go to the bathroom, I have all these different bathroom addresses on my phone, depending on what area I'm in that city, along with the lock codes. With that being said, let's get into it. Number 1, gas stations. This is by far my favorite one. And I will say, these are ordered, in my opinion, best to worst in my own experience of the best places to stop. Now, the main reason why I say a gas station first is because of parking. With all these other ones and a lot of other businesses in a city, sometimes it's parking, sometimes there's not. And that can get very, very tricky. But with a gas station, there's always parking. If you think about it, you always need to at least pull up and park your car. And what's good about gas stations is, one, it's very easy to pull in, go in, use the bathroom, and leave. But secondly, if let's say you want to grab a coffee or a Gatorade or a snack, you can do that. And then thirdly, if you need to get gas, you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You pull up, you fill up, you go to the bathroom, come back in your car, and you continue driving. Now, the only kind of potential con of the gas station is sometimes the bathrooms, like say, are not available. Like say they're out of service. Like say they just don't have one. That is something you have to keep in mind. I mean, this is true for most of the things I'm mentioning on this video, but that's why I suggest having the bathroom addresses. Like I remember when I was driving in Boston, there was one, I think it was the Gulf near the airport, that was perfect. You could easily pull up. The bathrooms are great. I could easily go in there, leave, get gas, maybe get a snack if I wanted one, or coffee or Gatorade or whatever, and continue driving. Gas stations are perfect to go quick in and out. Number 2, grocery stores. Now, the tricky thing about grocery stores, I gotta say right away, is the parking. As we all know, there are some grocery stores that don't really have any parking, especially in the middle of a city. It can be very tricky. Now, some have parking garages where you can go in and out, and sometimes it's like, oh, the first 15 minutes are free. So grocery stores can be tricky. This is why I'm putting it at number 2. But for most of the time, I will say, parking does exist. And I think when it comes to going to the bathroom as a driver, parking is actually one of the trickiest things, at least I find, because you don't want to be driving on the street, pull up, throw on your hazards, run in and out, worry about getting a ticket, or do you pull up to, like, say, a metered spot, and you're like, okay, do I pay the $1 to run in and out? Or do I just throw on my hazards and risk it? But I also don't want to get a ticket. It's kind of tricky. And what I like about grocery stores is, one, they almost always have a bathroom. Like, I don't think I've ever been in a grocery store that didn't have one, right? Again, it could be out of service, it could be broken, but 99% of the time, they always have a bathroom. And 2, it is very easy to run in and out, similar to a gas station, right? For some other businesses or establishments, if you want to go in and out without anybody noticing you or giving you a bit of a hassle to just use your bathroom, can get a little tricky depending on where you go. With a grocery store, however, it's very easy to just go in, go to the bathroom, and leave, and parking is usually pretty readily accessible. Number 3, department stores. Now, I put department stores in a very similar category as grocery stores, in the sense that if I need to run in and out real quick, I can do that. It's not like there's a code on the bathroom. I don't really have to ask an employee if I can use the bathroom. I just ask where it is. It's very easy to go in and out with no one giving you a huge hassle. The reason why I'm ranking this as number 3 is because I find sometimes some department stores the parking can be a bit more tricky than a grocery store. I find most of the time grocery stores have more readily accessible parking compared to department stores. And by department stores, I'm talking about like Target or Walmart or maybe Ross or any of these other department stores. Although it can get a little tricky because, for example, with almost every grocery store, there's a bathroom. There almost always is. But when you look at department stores, like, yeah, I feel like every Target has a bathroom and a Walmart. But then when you look at other ones, like I said, like Ross or these other ones, sometimes you never know. They might not have a bathroom. Or if they do, it's only for customers. So it can get a little tricky. Again, this is why bathroom addresses are so important. That, let's say, if there is a very easy Walmart or Target in your area with great parking, you pop in and out, definitely record it, of course, on your Notes app. But department stores are excellent when it comes to using the bathroom. Number 4, hotels. Now, hotels are kind of interesting. These can go either really good or really bad, but sometimes these are kind of your best bet. I'm not going to lie. Now, one, I find that when it comes to hotels, it's almost more of a personal human thing than a logistical thing. And here's what I mean. Hotels, when it comes to this list, are going to be the first ones I'm mentioning that sometimes you may get some pushback. However, when it comes to hotels, there's almost always some form of parking. And what I mean is, let's say you pull up, you throw your hazards on, you go into like, let's say the waiting area, you start going in, someone might confront you saying, hey, like, are you leaving your car there? And if you just say, hey, I'm going in to use the bathroom, I'm just going real quick, they might or might not give you some hassle. And sometimes I have gotten some hassle. Sometimes they're like, oh, no big deal. One thing I have noticed as a pro tip with hotels is if I'm saying I'm driving for Uber and Lyft, they almost always let me go. It's almost like this thing where they're like, hey, I'm working. I know you're working. I'll give you a pass. And there's been some times I've pulled up saying, hey, I'm not gonna lie, I'm driving for Uber and Lyft right now. I really got to use a bathroom. Is there any way I can go in real quick? I got to go. Almost always they say yes. And I've noticed, like I said, saying that I'm working or I'm driving for Uber and Lyft, I think they're like, hey, we're both in the customer service industry, both in the, customer industry of helping people or, servicing people and everything. I'll let you go in and use the bathroom. And like I said, when it comes to hotels, there's almost always at least some kind of like area that you can pull in to drop people off, right? So even if they don't have actual parking as we think of it, there is a place to put your car there. We really don't have to worry about having a ticket. Now, one huge thing I gotta say though, when it comes to hotels, is this: dropping people off. Like, let's say you really gotta go and you drop people off, they're going to their room, and you're like, oh, I'm also gonna run in and use a bathroom. I try not to do that just because, let's say someone's in the car, I drop them off, they're going to their hotel, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go and use a bathroom in the lobby. And then it kind of looks like I'm like following them. It might seem a bit creepy. Like, why is my Uber driver or Lyft driver getting out of the car? Like, it might seem a bit invasive of their privacy. I do kind of feel this out though. Like, there have been times where I was a passenger and someone dropped me off at a hotel and they said, hey man, I'm not gonna lie, not to be weird, I'm just gonna go in with you. I have to use the lobby bathroom. That didn't bother me at all. Cause I'm like, hey, I used to drive. I get that. Like, you gotta go. Hotels are great for that, for a lot of the times. You can definitely do that. But that's one thing I will say, that either A, if I drop somebody off, I might wait like a few minutes. I know it sounds weird, but let's say I'm desperate. Let's say I'm like, okay, in this area, I've looked at my bathroom addresses, no good spots. I might be like, you know what? I'll wait a few minutes, wait for them to maybe get inside, go to the elevator and stuff like that so they don't see me. Then I'll then go inside and use the bathroom, just because you do want to be respectful of people's space. Number 5, fast food chains. Now, this is the one I think for most people you probably think about right away. McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, In-N-Out, the list goes on and on. Now, the reason why I put this as number 5 is because I find that out of any of these 5 I've mentioned thus far, this is where I've been confronted the most. Now, on one end, as a pro, when it comes to fast food chains, always have a bathroom, right? I don't think I've ever seen a McDonald's or Burger King really that didn't have a bathroom. They almost always do. Again, sometimes it might be out of order or broken, but almost always they do. 2, almost always parking. Like, I don't think I've ever seen any McDonald's that didn't have parking. So parking is very, very easy when it comes to a lot of fast food chains. But the tricky thing is, I find going in and out quick without being confronted is the hardest out of all of these, even more than a hotel. Because there have been times, I'm not gonna lie, where I went into McDonald's, I'm like, hey, and I start to like say go to the bathroom, and like say it definitely has a code or it has to be locked. Like I've noticed, especially in cities, like in the heart of a city, usually either A, you have to buy something, B, I have to go to the person working and say, hey, is there any way I can use the bathroom? And they have to have like a buzzer and like buzz me into the bathroom. Or C, I remember I've seen this a couple times where when you order food, they can give you like a token, almost like a Chuck E. Cheese token or like a token at an arcade. And then after you get that token, after ordering food, you can then put it in like a slot to use the bathroom. Kind of weird. So I've seen these kind of like annoying barriers you have to kind of overcome to use the bathroom at fast food chains. But again, this is why bathroom addresses are important. One McDonald's in your area could be very easy to pull up. Of course, there's always parking, like I said. You walk in and out, that's it. Other ones, though, again, might have a lock code. You might have to get buzzed in. You might have to get that token. They might not actually let you use the bathroom unless you're buying food. And that has happened to me before. They're like, hey, sorry, unless you're buying something, can't let you use the bathroom. And I'm like, all right, I'll just get, I don't know, like a small thing of fries, which, as a side note, by the way, McDonald's is getting, or is, very expensive. I know a lot of people have talked about this, but kind of ridiculous. But so I might just get, I don't know, like a Coke or just anything. I might pay that extra $1, $2, or not extra, but I might have to buy at least a small item just to use the bathroom. So fast food chains can be very good, I find, depending on which one it is. But I find these have the biggest barriers you have to overcome to use the bathroom. And now a bonus spot for Uber drivers and Lyft drivers to go to the bathroom is coffee shops. I find these rank the last for me. Definitely dead last. However, it does depend. One, I find parking can be very tricky when it comes to a lot of coffee shops, and I'm talking within a city. And you may notice when it comes to everything I've talked about, the reason why I talk a lot about being in a city is because most drivers make the most amount of money driving in cities, and especially driving in the heart of a city. And as we all know, when it comes to coffee shops like a Starbucks, a Dunkin' Donuts, whatever the case is, those coffee shops almost, I find, never have parking. Maybe in a rural area or an area a bit outside the city, yeah, they might have parking. But in the city, usually usually not at all, right? So I will say, one, the tricky thing with coffee shops is parking can be a nightmare. Two, some coffee shops may be open to you going in and out pretty easily. This does depend. I find coffee shops are almost on the same level. Maybe as a hotel, like if anything, I've gotten denied, and I have actually. I've gotten denied using the bathroom more at fast food chains than coffee shops. So I will say that. So that's at least a pro or a benefit of a coffee shop. But I noticed that at a coffee shop, for whatever reason, I find there's usually a longer line to use the restroom, or you have to wait longer to use the restroom. Another thing is take at most Starbucks now, they all have a code. This is why I said when it comes to bathroom addresses, don't just have the address, the code of the bathroom. And this does kind of force you to ask the employees, like, hey, what is the bathroom code? Now, I find, especially now at almost any Starbucks, they'll just give it to you. They won't usually give you a hassle if you're not buying anything. However, some other coffee shops, especially like say like a mom and pop one or like a locally owned one, might actually give you a hassle. And then you're like, shoot, I don't want to get a coffee. It's 8 p.m. at night. I'll be up all night if I have a coffee, but I need to use the bathroom. Do I just buy it and throw it out? Kind of similar to being at a McDonald's, like I said. Do I buy like a croissant or whatever kind of food they have like readily available? So coffee shops can be a saving grace. And that's why I want to mention it as a pro tip and as like a bonus point. But these are dead last for me. I very rarely have any coffee shops on my bathroom addresses list. And if I do, they're usually outside the city. But let's say if I'm driving and I'm in a different area in the city and I'm like, oh man, like I got to go to the bathroom. Then I will look at my bathroom addresses. Or sometimes if it seems like a bit of like an easygoing area, that's the best way to word it, I might just search Starbucks. I find that's the best bet. Is going to a Starbucks. Almost always they'll just let you use the bathroom without any hassle or issue. Starbucks is usually your best bet, and most of the time they do have a parking lot. But in the heart of a city, I hate to say it, I almost try to avoid coffee shops at all costs, and I use these other places, these other 5 places I've talked about.